Hello, welcome to Brass Tacks. I'm Zakir Jacob. Congress leader Shashi Tharoor has been facing flack for calling Hamas a terror organization. In fact, he was speaking at a Muslim League rally in Malabar yesterday. Even on stage, even as that event was concluding, there were some leaders of the Muslim League who rebuked Tharoor for what he said. Now, according to them, Hamas is a resistance movement. It is not a terror organization. Now, I want to ask, what sort of resistance movement believes in cutting off the heads of babies, in raping women, mothers in front of their children, in taking 85-year-old grandmothers as hostages? What sort of resistance is this? This is terror. And terror is terror. It's plain and simple. It's black and white. It should not have any ifs or buts about it. We should call it out. The entire international community should, and domestically too. Our politicians should, like Tharoor did, that Hamas is a terrorist organization. Let's not cloak it around political correctness. Is Hamas the same as Palestine? No matter howsoever justified the Palestinian cause may be, are the means and methods adopted by Hamas justifiable? Is it time to de-hyphenate Palestine and Hamas?
ഒക്ടോബർ 7-ാം തീയതി ഭീകരവാദികൾ ഇസ്രായേലിൽ ആക്രമണം ചെയ്തു. 1400 വ്യക്തികളെ കൊന്നു. 200 ആൾക്കാരെ ഹോസ്റ്റേജായി എടുത്തു. പക്ഷെ അതിൻ്റെ മറുപടി ഇസ്രായേലിൻ്റെ ഞാൻ അപ്പോഴും എപ്പോഴും പാലസ്തീനിയൻ ജനങ്ങളൊപ്പമാണ്. ആരും എൻ്റെ പ്രസംഗം കേട്ടവർ ഇത് ഇസ്രായേലിന് അനുകൂലമായ ഒരു പ്രസംഗമാണെന്ന് വിശ്വസിക്കും. അപ്പോൾ ഇത് ഒരു വാചകത്തിനെ എടുത്തിട്ട് അനാവശ്യം പറയുന്നതിൽ എനിക്ക് ഒന്നും പറയാനില്ല.
We are raining hellfire on Hamas. We've already killed thousands of terrorists, and this is only the beginning. Simultaneously, we are preparing for a ground invasion. I will not elaborate on when, how, or how many.
All right, so one of the Muslim League leaders who was there on stage who then rebuked Shashi Tharoor was IUML leader MK Munir. He was present in the same rally. He countered Tharoor, and this is what he said, and I quote, that this is a fight for Palestine. It is a freedom struggle. Actions of Israel are similar to that of genocide. He also went on to say that defending a homeland and terror are two different things. Demystifying Palestine. Now, the point is that if you are going to intersperse both Palestine and Hamas as almost interchangeable, then there is a problem. Because, like I said at the top of the show, howsoever justifiable your political cause might be, the means and methods adopted by Hamas need to be called out and need to be questioned. The Palestinian Authority is recognized as the true representative of the people of Palestine. Even India recognizes the PA as the true voice of the Palestinian people. The Hamas is actually a militant offshoot. It actually came off the Muslim Brotherhood, which was founded in Egypt, which is a political force in Egypt and which is an extremist organization. The Hamas is actually an offshoot from the Muslim Brotherhood. The Palestinian Authority is run by the Fatah, the political party, which was founded by Yasser Arafat and then the PLO. That is the part, the West Bank, that they rule. Whereas Hamas are radicals who split away from the PLO, who did not believe in the philosophy of the PLO or of Yasser Arafat, and they wanted to take a more extremist stand, and that's how the Hamas came into existence. The Palestinian Authority has been at the forefront of dialogue, whether it is the Camp David Accords, whether it's the Oslo peace process. It was all between the Palestinian Authority and Israel and Israeli government officials. Whereas Hamas has never had any kind of dialogue between themselves and the Israeli authorities. In fact, they were the ones who led what was famously called as the Second Intifada at the turn of the century, this violent attacks on Israeli forces, which then led to the war in Gaza in 2005. The Palestinian Authority, technically, at least on paper, is meant to rule both West Bank and Gaza. But what happened after the 2005-2006 war in Gaza and after Israel left, there were elections in 2007 in which Hamas came to power, and ever since they've not held a single election. Since 2007, Hamas continues to rule Gaza with an iron fist. More than 2 million people packed into that 200 square mile area. It's the writ of Hamas that runs completely through Gaza. The other Palestinian representatives have no voice there. The Palestinian Authority maintains a seat of government in Ramallah, which is in the West Bank, whereas Hamas, it runs terror operations from the Gaza Strip. Now, this narrative of Hamas terror and keeping it separate from the Palestinian cause, this is something that anyone in the civilized world, India has made that distinction, the United States is making that distinction, Israel is making that distinction. It's time that some of our politicians also make that distinction. In fact, let me just quote Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen. He has warned the West when it comes to mixing up both Hamas terror and the Palestinian cause, and that's part of our Motorola, India's best 5G smartphone brand's tweet of the day.
Hello, Moto.
So this is what Eli Cohen has tweeted. It's a warning in a sense to the West. He has said, the West is next. Today it is us. Tomorrow it is you. Hashtag Hamas is ISIS. So let's get to our big debate topic tonight. Palestine and Hamas. Is it time to de-hyphenate both?
Hello, Moto.
All right, Sanjay Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP, joining us. Sanjay Jha, political analyst. Sushant Sareen, strategic expert. Dinesh Vashni, leader of the CPI, is also joining us. Sanjay Jha, you're a reasonable man. You have also oftentimes taken this position that you can't use terrorist means to justify a political cause. The Congress party also, after first saying that we stand with the victims of terrorism, after the CWC they issued a statement which seemed to sort of balance out both sides. This whole political correctness, can there be political correctness, Sanjay Jha, about killing babies, about raping mothers, about taking grandmothers as hostage? Let's not be politically correct about it. This is terror, this is uncivilized, this is barbaric, and it needs to be called out. Why are our politicians, particularly politicians in the opposition, so coy about it?
Zakir, this is a very serious subject, so I will just like to kind of make my point succinctly, and hopefully we can have a very meaningful conversation. Point number one, I think everybody has condemned the attack on civilians by Hamas. I don't think that is even a point to dispute. There are two things which are very important, though. Let us know our history correctly. Hamas is a creation of Israel. Israel has funded Hamas. Israel has ensured for its own dubious political motives that it wanted Hamas to actually succeed in Gaza because it knew that Hamas was more Islamist, and they did not want Fatah or the part of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the Palestinian Authority, to actually become the true voice of the Palestinian people. The truth, Zakir, that today, and I have friends in the media, even overseas, people say that if elections were held today in the West Bank, especially after all the violence over the last couple of weeks, the Hamas will probably sweep West Bank as well. Because the truth is this, that Israel followed a policy of divide and rule. And basically, you created a monster that is now hit back at you.
No. One second, Sanjay. Sanjay, again, I keep coming back to this. Are you saying that Hamas, and you said it, that Hamas, if it were to contest elections in the West Bank, it will win? Then go ahead, contest elections. No, why are you butchering babies? Why are you killing women, children, elderly? Go ahead, contest elections. Show the world that you are the voice of the people there. But you're not.
Zakir, but
you are going around attacking innocent civilians, people who are at an outdoor party, paragliding into that. You've built this whole network of tunnels. They had an opportunity. They were politically elected, right? They were politically elected in 2007. What have they done for the improving the lot of the people in Gaza in the last 15, 16 years?
Yeah, Zaka, let me answer you very quickly because what Sashi said, and I'm probably going to meet him after this program is over. Here are 2 points that you need to understand. You mentioned that after 2007 there have been no elections in Gaza. You're absolutely right. Find out when was the last elections held in the West Bank as well. And let me tell you, what Hamas did on October 7 has to be strongly condemned in probably the harshest terms. It's an act of massacre and terrorism. How would you define Israel keeping Gaza under siege, putting settlers in the West Bank, which by the way is an act of coercion and gradual occupation? And how do you explain the fact that today, as we talk, I'll give you the numbers. The number of Palestinians killed is over 7,000. 2,900 of them are children. 1,700 women. If that is not genocide,
Okay.
if that is not war crime, what is?
Okay, I concede. I don't think the point of this debate or the point of all the flack that the IUML is getting or Shashi Tharoor is getting. I agree with you on one count that nation states that are governed by the rule of law, that operate on principles of natural justice, cannot be using or cannot have to be mindful of the kind of civilian casualties or civilian damage that they are causing. And they have to be held to a higher standard than organizations like Hamas, no doubt about it. And if that means that you are denying basic food, water, electricity to 2 million people, yes, that is unacceptable. A nation state is to be judged by a far higher standard. But Sanju Verma, please respond to the point that Sanjay Jha is making that yes, what Hamas is doing is terrorism, absolutely no two ways about it, no ifs and buts. But how can a state, a democracy, flout international rules, flout the rule of law, flout rules of war, conventions, the Vienna Convention, the Geneva Convention, and cause civilian casualties to the extent that we're seeing 7,000 of them, 2,900 of them babies, apparently. And most importantly, how can you do this siege where 2 million people have no food, water, and electricity? What would you call that?
Zaka, like you said that you don't like tutu meme on your debates. I was absolutely quiet and I want that courtesy extended to me because as Sanjay Jha said, there is the need to have a meaningful conversation. And I will answer all your queries and also specifically give a rebuttal to what Mr. Jha said. I agree with the fact that Hamas is a terror outfit and they need to be called out for the bloodthirsty terror outfit that they are. Hamas was established in 1987 and it clearly says that it subscribes to the ideology of Muslim Brotherhood. Point number one. For somebody to sit here and on the one hand say that yes, I condemn Hamas, but in the same breath qualify his statement, and I'm talking of Mr. Jha, he qualifies his statement by saying, but you know what, while Hamas is a terror outfit, while what they did on the 7th of October is not acceptable, let us be very clear that Hamas is actually a creation of the Israeli state, which I think is a whole lot of gibberish. And I will tell you why. And, somebody needs to just, while you have explained history very well, before the program, please, Mr. Jha, you can keep having that smirk on your face and shaking your finger, but it's my turn. Anyone who knows the history, okay, I don't need to learn my history from you. Anyone who's read about the Israel-Palestine Hamas, axis of conflict, including the Egyptian history, knows that while Israel was set up in 1948, it became an independent state in 1948. The fact of the matter is that between 1948 and 1967, Gaza was under Egyptian occupation. Point number one. Between 1967 and 2006, Gaza was with Israelis for about 38 to 39 odd years. From 2006-7 till 2023, as we speak now, for the last 16 to 17 odd years, Gaza has been with the Hamas. And as you said, Zaka, let people question the Hamas and ask them, hypothetically assuming that Hamas came to power in Gaza after winning elections. What have they done for the people of Gaza? Absolutely zilch. And I was reading something before coming on your show. that Hamas has an annual expenditure of $375 million on defense. Hamas sits on cash worth $565 million, and Hamas has real estate investments to the tune of $531 million. But do you know what? Despite having millions of dollars in investments in cash, what have you, Hamas has not been able to provide even basic amenities like food, water, and shelter to the Gazans. Point number one. Point number two, and very quickly, because you gave the Congress, suspended leader a long intervention. For people who say that Hamas is the creation of Israel, I want to turn around and ask this question. Are you then going to say that since the Congress and Mrs. Gandhi in 1978 supported, can I please finish?
Please finish. Please finish.
Thank you. Everyone knows this, that in 1978, when the SGPC elections were conducted in Punjab, Bhindrawale put up candidates. And all the candidates put up by Bhindrawale in 1978 in the SGPC elections were supported by Indira Gandhi. So are you then saying that when Indira Gandhi was assassinated in 1984, we should rationalize that, normalize that, justify that by saying that yes, ye to hona hi tha, because Bhindrawale was a Frankenstein monster who was Indira Gandhi's creation.
Right to rebuttal, Sanjay, very quickly, because Sushant and Mr. Vashni have been waiting very patiently. So very quick rebuttal, please.
Zaka, Benjamin Netanyahu is on record to tell his own party in 2019 that we will fund Hamas. We have to support Hamas to ensure that the Palestinians don't get Can I stop interrupting me here?
Ma'am, please. Due courtesies, please. Let him finish. And quick rebuttal, Sanjay, 10 seconds. I need to go to the others as well. Sanju Verma, please yield. Yeah, please.
She's disturbing my momentum. Here is my point. Benjamin Netanyahu is on record to say support Hamas. They did not want the Palestinians to get their homeland. The policy of divide and rule has boomeranged against Benjamin Netanyahu. Point number one. Point number two, the UN Secretary General yesterday, or day before rather, said that you cannot look at the problem in Gaza today in a vacuum. Israel does not have the right to actually create the kind of ethnic cleansing and war crimes they are committing in Gaza. And you had the audacity and the arrogance of the Israeli foreign minister to say that the UN Secretary General should resign.
So let me ask Sushant Sareen that. There was a proposal, I believe the US mooted that proposal, Sushant, at the UN Security Council, which was vetoed by Russia and China. It basically said that Hamas should be called a terrorist organization. It also said that the hostages should be immediately returned. It was vetoed by Russia and China. The motion did not go through. Now, I'm asking a very simple question. Assuming all of what Sanjay Jha said about Hamas is true, what Sanjay Jha said about Israel's actions leading to the creation of Hamas, the sustenance of Hamas, all of that is true. I just have a simple question to ask. This war will end tomorrow if Hamas releases the 200 plus hostages that they have. What are they holding those hostages for? And what would you call a body, an organization, a group of people who kidnap and hold hostages? What is the civilized word for them?
The only word for them, Zaka, is that they are terrorists, and they're the most heinous kind of terrorists you can ever come across. And to conflate them with the revolutionary fighters or fighters for the liberation, I think that's abusing the word of anybody who's a freedom fighter or fighting for the liberation of what is an occupied territory. And I don't have to say that this is occupied territory. The Israelis themselves call it occupied territories. So it's not a term I use. Secondly, on the issue of this war will end if the Hamas was to release the hostages, I don't think the war will end if the hostages are released. I think this war is going to continue until as long as Israel feels that Hamas has an existence, at least insofar as Gaza is concerned. So I don't think this war is going to end. Yeah, there could be some kind of temporary pause. There could be something like that. Some more humanitarian aid could go. But beyond that, I don't think this war is going to end. The third thing is that the reason why the Hamas wants this war I don't know if people have seen that interview of Khalid Mashal, who is a very senior
Yeah.
leader of Hamas, uh, who uh, who said that independence does not come free. You have to lose millions of people to be able to win your freedom. And he gave the example, for example, of the Afghans. He gave the example of a number of other places where hundreds of thousands of people died before a result was achieved in those conflicts. And clearly, he's alluding to that he doesn't give a damn because he and his kids are living very safely outside Gaza. They're living extremely comfortable and luxurious lives. So they don't give a damn to what happens to the people who are in Gaza. And they want maximum number of casualties to take place in Gaza so that there is even more outrage in the Islamic world and in the Arab world. And whatever prospects there were, and peace prospects were looking very bright. And I imagine that when the Saudis and the Israelis were negotiating for diplomatic recognition, it would have broken some of the log jams which have bedeviled the peace process between Israel and Palestine, because that was one of the conditions that the Saudis were putting. And Israel was very keen on a good relationship with the Saudis opening up. That has been shot to the ground for the moment, at least.
So let me ask Dinesh Vashni. I keep coming back to this whole Hamas and why does any organization hold civilians hostage? And not just Israelis, by the way. There are Americans there, there are Thai nationals. I believe there are others from South Asia who are also kidnapped and who are currently hostage in Hamas custody. Now, they reportedly, Mr. Vashni, the Hamas's objective here is they are saying we will release these hostages, A, if Israel stops shooting, completely ignoring that this whole thing started with the October 7 terror attacks. That's number one. Number two, and more importantly, they want some of the Palestinian prisoners, Gazan prisoners, who are in Israeli jails to be freed in lieu of them releasing the hostages. Now, please tell me, Mr. Vashni, how is this any different from what the IC-814 hijackers did? They hijacked a plane that was going from India to Kathmandu. They took that to Afghanistan, held Indian civilians and other nationality civilians hostage and said, there are these Kashmiri fellows who are in jail, release them, and we will let these guys go. So if we call those guys terrorists, and every Indian who has lived to see what happened with IC-814, the horrors of those 3-4 days, how is what Hamas is doing any different from what those guys did?
Look, Jaga, before I answer your question, I would like to say two-liner caution. Number one, I fully agree with Mr. Sanjay Jha. What he said about the creation of the Hamas and funding of the Hamas and the nature of the Hamas, as well as the Israeli ethnic cleansing. I fully agree with Sanjay Jha. Now, number two, you are asking me the civilian hostages. I would like to know how many Palestinian hostages are there in the Israeli jails since 2003 till today. Over 9,000, including children and women and elderly people. Over 9,000. Not the members of the Hamas or supporters of the Hamas. The Hamas was created to weaken the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, under Yasser Arafat, as well as the Fateh Group.
Mr. Vashni, what was created to weaken what? How does that justify beheading babies and raping women and taking grandmothers hostage? I mean, it makes no sense. It makes no justification. Mr. Vashni.
Look, Israel has not accepted the resolution of two-nation theory of the United Nations. Israel has not accepted any United Nations resolution. Other than the American, no other country has vetoed even today the ceasefire.
Sir, for your information, even Hamas does not want a two-nation solution. Hamas wants one thing, which is the complete eradication of Israel. It's there in their charter.
No,
the complete eradication of Israel, the complete eradication of every Jew.
We don't support the eradication of Israel.
That is Hamas's stated position. You can find that in their charter.
We don't support that position. No, we don't support.
So then why are you supporting an organization which has that position?
But Israel should leave the occupied territory.
Okay.
You see the map of
one second, Sanju Verma, I'm coming to you, but I think Sushant had a quick rebuttal to this. Sushant, quick rebuttal, and then I have a graphic also to take after that, Sanju Verma.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by the position that Mr. Vashni has taken. But look, here is the thing. Israel did not create Hamas. Hamas came into being on its own. Okay,
No,
what
I don't
Israel
agree
must
with
have
you.
done, and
No, there is an ample.
No, one second,
evidence
Mr.
that
Vashni,
has
one
been
second, one
created
second.
by
One
Israel.
second, one at a time, please. Otherwise, we're not hearing anyone. Yeah, Sushant.
I can't, this constant thing of interrupting other people. I don't interrupt anybody. I don't know why he has to do it. Israel did not create Hamas. Hamas was created on its own. There were other reasons why it was created. Uh, and yes, you can accuse Israel of having played what Sanjay Jha very correctly calls a divide and rule policy. But this divide and rule policy has not only been used by Israel, it has been used by many other countries, including India, and not just in Punjab. India did it in the case of Sri Lanka when we were supporting LTTE, and we lost Rajiv Gandhi to LTTE terrorists. I don't know what we'll call them then. So the point is that this always backfires. Perhaps this is a lesson that Israel has learned. They played that politics, that has backfired. There's no doubt about it. But how does that absolve Hamas of the terrorist label? Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, how does that make people say that, look, okay, fine, they are a terrorist organization, but then there is this political problem. Of course, there is a political problem, but Zaka, it's very important to underline the simple fact that political problem, even Israel agrees to a two-state solution. The problem is in the details of what that two-state solution is going to be. It's not as though Israel does not agree to a two-state solution. I don't know where this is coming from. The only point is Israel is seeking some very stringent security guarantees, and some of the things which they want in the two-state solution, that means that the Palestinian state will not technically be a kind of a state which most other states are.
All right, Sanju Verma and then Sanjay Jha after that. Yeah, Sanju Verma.
What it is right now.
Sure.
May I please?
Yeah, Sanju Verma. Yeah,
thank
quickly.
you.
I have a couple of minutes to wrap up also. Yeah, Sanju Verma, then Sanjay Jha.
Yeah. Zaka, let me make it very clear that, this whole theory that Israel actually created Hamas, it has been debunked by policy experts across international fora. Point number one. Point number two, let's be very clear that the major wars between, Israel and the Arabs or Israel and the Gazans, it was in 1948, 41, 1951, 52, 1967, 1973, 1982, and 2006. And in each of these Arab-Israeli wars, the provocation always started from the other side and not from the Israeli side. Point number two. Point number three, be it the Camp David Agreement of 1967, or I did not interrupt you, please keep quiet, be it the Camp David Agreement of 1967, or the Oslo I Agreement of 1993, or the Oslo II Agreement of 1995. If there is anyone who refused to comply with these arrangements and agreements, it was again the Gazans led by Hamas.
Okay.
Point number four, I repeat, please give me 10 seconds.
Yeah, 10 seconds I have to wrap up, yeah.
Yeah, point number four, I repeat, the day you rationalize Hamas and say Hamas did it because Israel did XYZ 40, 50 or 60 years back, you are rationalizing what Bhindranwale and his supporters did. You are trying to indirectly justify the assassination of Indira Gandhi, who tried to
Sanjay Jha, how is this any different from trying to justify Bhindranwale? I mean, you could also justify the IC-814 hijackers by this same token. You're on mute, Sanjay. You're on mute, Sanjay.
Gandhi wanted to co-opt Bhindranwale to split the Akali Dal.
Sanjay, unmute, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Zaka, we all are aware that politicians who grow snakes in their backyard pay for it. I agree with you that even in India, political parties have done that and have paid a huge price. But one data point is very relevant in this conversation, Zaka. Look at the number dead in West Bank. We keep talking Gaza, right? Why are 100 people killed, 100 Palestinians dead in West Bank today? Because this is the problem.
Ma'am, please. Ma'am, please. This is another way. Sanjay, close. 30 seconds. I got to wrap up. Quickly, please.
Yeah, Zaka, here is the point. That the Israelis have never basically done anything to support what is a UN security resolution that you must have a two-state solution. It survives on American buffering.
Okay.
And even Joe Biden was compelled to say, you have to go for the two-state solution.
All right. I got to wrap up. Completely out of time. Thank you very much to all our guests. But one thing that's happening on the ground, and this is something that we need to be paying close attention to, need to be worried about, is this is now increasingly threatening to spill into a regional war. Today, the US has confirmed that it's hit a couple of targets in eastern Syria. These are rebels backed by Iran. So just a quick roundup of how this is now spreading to other areas. In Lebanon, of course, I've mentioned this earlier as well, that Hezbollah, which is Iran's proxy in southern Lebanon, is escalating with rocket strikes on Israel. So Israel has almost like a two-front situation here. Hezbollah has been launching multiple cross-border raids, rocket attacks. IDF artillery strikes have been hitting targets in southern Lebanon as a retaliation to that. Israel has also mobilized tanks to secure that border, the northern border with Lebanon. Syria, which is to the east of Israel, Iran-backed forces have been firing rockets from Deraa into Israel. There were skirmishes with the IDF near Golan Heights. Remember, Golan Heights has been a contested point in the past as well. Israeli airstrikes have hit targets in southern Syria as well. And today, the US has confirmed that the US hit airstrikes on two places in eastern Syria, targeting Iran-backed assets. In Yemen, which is further south, in Yemen too, there have been missile attacks by Houthi rebels targeting Israel. Missiles have been intercepted by both US as well as Saudi anti-missile defense systems. So clearly, if you go back to that map, you will see that Israel is sort of circled by attacks from all three sides, from Hezbollah and Lebanon in the north, from Syria in the east, and of course from the Houthi rebels in Yemen, not to mention, of course, what they're fighting against Hamas in Gaza.